All right, so this is officially, we're up to episode 33 of Both Laugh, the Dying Scene Quarantine Chat Show. And quarantine has gone on for so long now that we are up to our first repeat guest.
Hey, congratulations.
Almost a year ago, Rob Rufus was here. I think it was episode 2. I think I had only one under my belt at that point, talking about Vinyl Underground at that point. And now Rob and I both are joined by his twin brother, Nat. Together they are the core of, I think, one of the first bands that I ever got introduced to when I started writing for Dying Scene 10 and a half years ago at this point. Blacklist Royals, Nat and Rob, welcome. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Good to be here, man.
I was thinking about this earlier. I was driving around and I said, you know what? I've known those guys in one form or another for at least 8 or 9 years now. And I don't know that I've ever talked to you both at the same time. Because Nat, you came up here on that Scott Shiflett, Trever Keith face-to-face tour.
Yeah,
I think that was the first time we officially met.
It was, and I was talking about that the other day because I was just talking about, we were talking to somebody about like punk bands, like just the idea of if you're not part of a scene, you're fucked just because of the venue situation.
Right.
And I do remember meeting you, and you actually, I think it might have been you and your brother, but you and somebody else took me and my boys out for like clam chowder or some shit. Around and was very hospitable and cool.
We sat at I think it was like the JFK, the John Fitzgerald Kennedy, like his booth at the Union Oyster House. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, man, that was very cool. And I actually was just seriously, I mentioned that the other day because I was like, it's like, punks will be like that even if we'll find a way to like make it work, and I'm sure that's the same for a lot of like music scenes. But if you're just I'm a mainstream artist, like it's gonna be fucking rough. It's gonna be rough for everybody, but it's gonna be rough times, I think.
So
you can't sleep on TikTok's floor.
Exactly.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
I mean, you might make $1 million fucking bucks, but if you're not, you're not sitting on the floor.
Yeah, the last people that I had on the show, one of whom was Chris Wallard from Ship Thieves, which to me was like a fucking honor because I've been a Hot Water fan forever. And he was talking about the first time that they met Teenage Bottlerocket. Speaking of like that whole face-to-face tour scene, the first time they met Teenage Bottlerocket was when they were recording Exister. They recorded at the Blasting Room in Fort Collins with Bill Stevenson, and they needed a place to rehearse for a few days before they went into studio. So he's like, oh, call Brandon from Teenage Bottlerocket. He'll let you stay at his house. And so they had never met him before, didn't know who he was, like they had heard of Teenage Bottlerocket. That was about the extent of it. They knock on Brandon and his girl's door, and they spent the next 5 days in the basement just jamming and shit like that. They're like, yeah, our house is open, mi casa, su casa, like, and they talked about like that. Just probably only the punk rock scene that could
that's really
exist.
Funny because when the first time we met Brandon was we were playing in Fort Collins, and they let us stay at their fucking house.
Yeah, we saw him and his girl, and we didn't know them at all.
Yeah.
We saw him and his wife at the time. They were like riding bikes or something, and our merch girl was like, hey, that's the guy from Teenage Bottlerocket. Yeah, and they came out to the show, and that was how we met, and we became we were like very close friends, and I love those dudes and love Ray, like, but it was a trip. And you're right, it's only in the punk scene. They'd be like, some dude in a noteworthy kind of band that's like, at that point, I'm like, I don't want a motherfucking band sleeping on my floor or whatever,
Right.
It's so cool and hospitable, showed us a great time, so that's funny. We slept on that same floor.
The same floor as Hot Water Music. So how are you guys? I know for one of you, it's been a year just about, and Nat, I don't remember the last time you and I talked. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, man. I think it was like in person.
Yeah.
I mean, we've maybe texted, but I think last time I saw you was in person in Boston, maybe with face or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, we're doing, for these times, I feel so fucking lucky just to, we've be healthy. Everybody in our families kind of made it through without, you know, anything serious happening. So it has been a horrible fucking year or whatever, right? But you know, I think we're doing pretty well considering. I mean,
yeah, man, we're doing good, and we're back. You know, I think last time we talked, Nat and I were quarantined apart, but now we're playing music together again, and like we have this stuff coming out, and it's I'm getting cautiously optimistic, you know, that music will exist again, and so yeah, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, we'll talk about the new music that's coming out, which I finally got a chance to hear today, and it's really cool. And it took me back to 10 years ago when I first heard Blacklist Royals, truthfully. When I started doing this show, one of the things was to talk about, or to talk with people who had canceled plans and shit like that. Like essentially everybody did at this point. But one of the things that I knew you guys had coming up was that there would have been Blacklist Royal shows at the fest with like OG members to do the 10th anniversary of Semper Liberi, and that must have that was one of the big things on the calendar with a star on it, at least in my book. So
yeah, we were really excited about that, and but I'm optimistic that it's still going to happen a year later. I just talked to Eric yesterday. He just got his first vaccine. So like,
cool.
I'm hopeful that we're going to be jamming again soon.
Are all those original guys, are they in Nashville roughly?
No. And Eric is, and Alex, our old key player, who is allegedly going to do the show with us. He's a bit of a fucking nomad, and he's like he was always a wild card. So and has grown progressively wilder. So
quarantine will do that to you.
It remains to be seen, and either Devin, who lives here, or Dirk, who you met, who lives in Oklahoma City, may come do the show too. So like, we got motherfuckers from all over, man. Like, and we're all just like ready to play some punk rock.
When did the idea to actually do the 10th anniversary stuff come about? Was it specifically for Fest and then kind of built around that, or was that something you did in-house?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, we actually, our last show was Strike Anywhere, Amberetta Hot Water Music in Richmond, right?
Oh, okay.
We fucking run into Tony from the Fest that does the Fest.
Yeah, right.
In the pit. And we're all wasted going, what the fuck, you know? And just like that next morning, we were going, maybe we should like do a show at the Fest. And, you know, we hit up Blacklist original bassist and was just like, hey, would you be down to do this if Tony wanted to do it? And he said yeah. And then we, you know, asked Tony, and he was stoked, and eventually it'll happen. You know, one day.
Yeah.
And the band's gonna be so fucking excited by that point. It don't matter if there's like 2 people there. We're just gonna be like, this is incredible, dude. You know, and it is kind of like the lockdown really does make you appreciate even the tiniest.
Yeah.
It's just because it's like, that's not what it's about. It's not about the fucking crowd. It's about like, you know, the interaction of whatever, you know.
Right.
So yeah, we're I think that's where that idea was born, though, in that mosh pit of that show.
I think you're right.
And we actually ran into Alex, that very key player he's talking to, who we hadn't seen or talked to in years, in the same mosh pit.
Yeah.
At a hot water show. That's
at
awesome.
Hot Water Strike Anywhere Amberetta show in Richmond.
Virginia.
Our last show.
That had to be, when was that like February?
It was like February.
It was like the anniversary was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was in February, and it was such a great show that I felt even luckier to see after all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were one of my last shows, but we had we certainly didn't have Amberetta, or we had Be Well, which is a really cool band from Baltimore, and then we had a localer band called Fiddlehead open up. But that was such a good show. Who knew that would be one of the last things we saw? But
I know, man, it's weird. I mean, and think about the people that were like, the last thing I saw was a fucking John Mayer cover band. My girlfriend dragged me to.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like so we really lucked out.
Man, yeah. When the Facebook reminds you that it's been a year since your last show, it's like having Hot Water as your last show is a pretty good one.
Totally, dude.
Having a John Mayer cover band at the local bar probably just erase those memories.
Yeah.
You never forgive your girlfriend for that one, right? You'd be like, the whole pandemic, you'd be like, you fucking.
Right.
Yeah.
You're quarantined together and reminded of that every day.
Remember that shitty show you dragged me to when I wanted to go see Hot Water Music?
What I love to imagine is a guy who's a band he liked was playing that night, but his girlfriend really wanted to go to the show, and her brother-in-law was in the band, and he was guilted into going.
Yep.
And then their relationship imploded, and it became actually it's fucked up. He ended up murdering her, and it's a pretty dark story.
That took a dark turn really quick.
Yeah, that's where it went in my head.
Yeah, I was with you. I was like, yeah, that would suck. Oh. So let's talk about the new EP, which is out April 2nd officially, I think.
Sure.
Something.
Maybe.
April something.
Per the press release, it's April 2nd.
It's April 2nd.
Cool.
Where did these 3 songs come from? So for folks that don't know yet, and I certainly haven't written a press release because our site is still broken. We got 3 songs, and it's out on Paper and Plastic, which is the old label from a decade ago. Where did these 3 songs come from? Are these from quarantine, or are these from other things you had going on?
Yeah, you know what's funny is they actually came from the group of songs Nat and I were putting together for the Die Young With Me movie, and we had just having to record these 3, and then the pandemic happened, and it was just like they were weirdly fitting with what was going on,
right,
and relevant in a way that like we didn't expect, and everything sucked so bad we were like, we should just put these out, you know, and give like the 10 people who give a shit something to focus on, and us included. And so we hit up Vinny, and he was into the idea, and that's where it kind of happened. It was weird how it happened, but I'm excited to have them coming out.
Yeah, it was exciting to hear, and I'll tell you, because I mean, like I said, I've known you guys for close to a decade and have been a Blacklist Royals fan for close to a decade, and I like the stuff that you've obviously done since then. Like, life has taken you in different creative directions, but it was sort of cool, at least as a listener, to have it all kind of brought back to that sound from 10 years ago. Was that?
That's good. That's good to hear, man.
What went into, like, why make them Blacklist Royal songs necessarily? Like, what got you writing rock and roll songs like that versus what you've done with Bad Signs or not?
I mean, we never really quit. Honestly, we have probably like 20 Blacklist Royals songs teed up. I think the stuff with the movie adaptation in my book really gave us a reason to go back through a lot of old half-written songs and songs, like even shit we'd been working on as teenagers, you know, and kind of it just helped us like refocus and you know, stepping away from punk rock for a while. Like nothing makes you miss playing punk rock more than not playing punk rock, you know. Even and like I love all types of music, and we play all types of music, but like there's nothing like playing some fucking punk rock songs.
Yeah, we've definitely been on stage quite a few times with Bad Signs playing a slow song, looking at each other going, fuck this. And it's like
our own songs, man.
This shit I wrote, and I'm like, fuck this. And it's so it was both intentional, but it was also like when you're young, especially, and you know, Blacklist kind of had a thing we were doing, and then you branch out kind of creatively, and it was cool to kind of come back to, like you said, old stuff, because it was almost like, what, you know, had we just started the band today, that's the new shit is what it would have sounded like. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of, it's more of like, you know, that straight ahead kind of like, you know, our own version of punk, but I'd say the lyrics have kind of are a little more like, you know, what we'd want to be saying. They're like a little more introspective than say our early stuff, but I think the sound's definitely kind of, you know, gone back to that old days.
It's funny you say that, because as I was listening to it earlier, the thought that I had was that musically, this sounds like the first Paper and Plastic record, Semper Liberi, the one that is now, I guess, turning 11. But lyrically, it lines up a little more with Die Young With Me. So it's sort of like, I put Die Young With Me on. I went for a drive today, and I put Die Young With Me on for the first time in a while and listened to it straight through. And I went, man, I remember how good this album is, but it sounded different to listen to it. It's been a few years since I listened to it start to finish.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, the new stuff sounds more like the original stuff, but the lyrics on this one, on Doomsday Girl, sound like they could have come from like Die Young With Me era.
That's cool, man. Yeah, it's good to know our writing hasn't regressed, you know.
Like, just because we're talking about Paper and Plastic, but it was actually Vinny, you know, our first record was kind of just like, you know, punk rock party music, like, or not, I mean, you know, everybody was just trying to be a punk Bruce Springsteen, us included, right? And, you know, and so we had a lot of that Darlington County Springsteen shit going on. And Vinny actually from Paper and Plastic was like, guys, you're like, you know, Rob, especially, he's like, dude, your life story is actually interesting. You guys like have interesting shit to say. Why are you kind of not really saying anything with your music?
Right.
Which is kind of what led to Die Young With Me, which was this total reverse take, which is this like mega personal, but you know, record that, you know, was almost like to a fault. I'd almost say it seriously, just because, you know, it was our second record, but it's kind of through that process, you know, it was like, kind of like you just said, learning to blend those things and learning kind of, you know, as a songwriter to go like, and honestly, we revisited some of these songs. We went and seen Social Distortion a couple years ago. And I was so like kind of taken back to how motivating some of those songs have been and like inspiring and whatever. And I was like, dude, you know, like we've got something to fucking say, and let's go back and like, you know, I don't know. That's cool. That's just cool of you to say about the lyrics, because especially, you know, like Reject It and Heroin Town and stuff. The original versions of those were almost a little darker, like a little more like, you know, nihilistic. And then we were like, fuck that. Like there's enough, not because, you know, you do feel that way, but that's not all I feel. Right. So it's like, so that's cool of you to notice that. And like you said, it is funny because a lot of this stuff was pulled, or this line could be fucking like whatever, 20 years old. Like, and then they line up with the times, and you're like, oh, that sucks.
Well,
like, it sucks to be relevant. Thing,
yeah, Doomsday Girl especially, that could be like that's a 2020 song for sure.
that's what was really fucked up about that, because when I first wrote it, like, I'd written that, the crux of this song really years ago, and then it seemed almost irrelevant. This year happened, and
you waited long enough.
Shit comes back around.
Right.
The world will eat itself all over again if you wait long enough.
Right. And Heroin Town too. That's a song that's, talk about a personal song. That's a song about where you guys grew up in Huntington, West Virginia, which if people have heard of Huntington, West Virginia, it's quite literally because, unfortunately, it's got the highest opiate overdose rate in the world, in the country.
It is overdose capital of the world, like per capita. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's weird, man. And that song, especially, we'd actually been up in West Virginia at the Huntington Mall and seen this little punk girl like sitting outside drinking a fucking soda or whatever, and that was almost like kind of the motivation for writing that, or for, it's like, man, there's still punks in West Virginia. Like, they should know people are thinking about them, and they know it's a bummer up there and stuff. But yeah, that song is kind of a downer though, huh?
Yeah, well, it is, except that, like we said about Doomsday Girl, it's appropriate.
Yeah.
And Massachusetts for a long time had the second highest overdose rate in the country. So even though I have never set foot in West Virginia, nor will I probably, I would imagine, unless something went wrong.
You're like, please, Jesus, I avoided it.
Unless I took a wrong turn, unless I drove to Nashville or something like that, and kind of But we have our own pockets in Massachusetts that are up there with Huntington, West Virginia, where towns have been just decimated by opiates for an entire generation now. And so you essentially lose a generation of people to opiates. So it's a fun song.
No, but it's like, it is funny though. Like you said, it's kind of sad though, that now heroin addiction is such a relatable issue.
Right.
Like once in the 80s and shit, it'd just be rock stars or what, it's not like everybody you met would be like, oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. I know that junkie shit. So sadly, I mean, that's kind of a very West Virginia centric kind of song, but it's and it's about our hometown, of course. But like you said, I think that problem kind of stretches out everywhere,
especially east of the Mississippi. Like west of the Mississippi, they have more methamphetamines than we do here, so that's like a whole like third eye blind thing. Third Eye Blind wrote it, like their biggest hit is about doing meth, and that's so over most people's heads. And
dude, I know, I think about that every time I hear that shit on the radio.
He says it's like the first line of the song is about doing crystal meth, and everybody loves it.
Our friend, who I won't name for
I don't know if you should name any of this.
Never mind.
Yeah, I know. I think there's only one Third Eye Blind story floating around, and that I know it. And it's not appropriate podcast.
That's when I hit the record button and we stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
But especially like I said, anybody in the Northeast, like from West Virginia on up through Maine, is going to get Heroin Town, unfortunately.
Totally. Unfortunately, I think you're right.
Well, like you said though, man, it's also like, everybody can't kind of relate to that. So it is kind of like it's like a downer song, but it is kind of like an upbeat kind of like, I think, like I said, it's just sad people could relate to that. But
I mean, it's calling it what it is, which is a phrase that I hate ultimately, but it's calling it what it is. Like a lot of us have lost a lot of people to the bad shit, whether it's heroin specifically, but that's yay for us for making it through. Ultimately,
No
right?
shit.
It's
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel that.
Prior to, I'm assuming you haven't been back to West Virginia since COVID, but prior to, when, like, do you go back there at all, or is that way in the rear view?
Yeah, we I guess last time we went was we were shooting some stuff for the Die Young With Me movie, and Nat and I had went up, but otherwise, like, aside from funerals, nah.
Yeah.
It's pretty far in the fucking rear view.
Is it weird to go back? Is it a place that's sort of been frozen in time? My hometown is sort of similar. Like, I haven't.
It's weird. It's and it's jarring, you know, to really see like our old neighborhood will be like it looks the same, and then you really look a little closer and you go, oh, this house in the middle of the block is now like abandoned and kind of a drug house, and this house is too, and this fucking house is too. And it's just kind of surreal.
Yeah.
But
it's almost like a frozen, and you probably could relate to this. It's like frozen in time, but in this like bizarro alternate reality where you're like, was it this fucked up when I lived here? Because I wouldn't let my kids like walk, you know, we used to fucking skate all over town, like, you know, and it's like, Jesus Christ, you go there now and I'd be a helicopter parent or something. You know?
I have a teenage daughter now. Like my daughter's 13, and to think of, you know, part of you says, well, you know, we grew up fine, whatever. Like, we should be able to go out until God knows whatever time. But now I'm like, no. I understand why people are helicopter parents. Like,
we even had and I won't name the band, but a very well-known band, friend of ours, punk band, actually played there, I think, a year or two ago. And one of the band members walked off with a local resident, and the band became a helicopter band. They were going, you don't fucking walk off with somebody in West Virginia. You don't know what the fuck these people are, where they're going to take you or whatever. Yeah, it was like, you know, the wildest dudes on earth are now like, what? We got to find him. We got to find him. It's like, so yeah, it brings that out in people, you know?
Yeah. All of those sort of like small, but not really small towns. Like, it's,
man.
You're right. It brings that out of you. Have you been writing more during quarantine? Especially now, if you're quarantined together, or at least seeing each other more, have you been writing more now, or has this allowed you to be more creative?
We've actually been, like we've kind of, you know,
all right.
I mean, it's kind of been like the music thing was so, like, we had a whole lot of us and everybody else on earth, right? But we had like a whole lot of plans that kind of got canceled, and we kind of were in this state with Bad Signs where we had all these songs written, and what we've been doing more, I've been doing more, at least musically, it's like actually getting to work during the COVID thing. Like, you know, we finished a Bad Signs record. I did my whole, like, recorded that whole solo surf EP I did over quarantine. It was like, so it was kind of like we finally, you know, we had a lot of shit like on the back burner that it's like, all right, well, if the whole world's gonna be locked down, then, you know, let's finish the record, or let's finally get around to doing this thing, or whatnot.
Well, I'll tell you, not everybody's been like that. So it's good that you actually took advantage of that time.
There was definitely a lot of unproductive nights. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was certainly not like I was unfazed or either of us were unfazed. Like, but like you said, and honestly, it really was like, you feel lucky to even kind of be inspired as an artist, because it's like a lot of people, I mean, it was just so hopeless, you know, and it almost felt like you get your identity ripped away in this weird thing, right? If you're a musician or if you're a whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So it was good to be productive. And a lot of times that was like, just to stay sane.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Yeah. I definitely, I think it's been probably easier for me than him, because writing, it's I can be just so in my own head, be by myself, and not, because it sucks playing music when you can't collaborate with people, you know what I mean? So it is cool to be able to start rehearsing again and really working shit out, and we've been working on a couple different projects together, and it's exciting to even like possibility of going out and playing music again. It's so exciting, man.
When you write, do you write for a specific project, or do you say like, oh, we got to write a bunch of bad songs now, or we should be working on a Blacklist album, or do you just kind of, when we're talking writing music, or do you just kind of go and see where the music goes?
I usually write for a specific project.
Yeah,
you probably do too. I think it's usually like we're focusing only on this till we get this done, and now we're focusing on this, and we're gonna write. We're gonna get a record written, and then we can write something else, you know. But I think it definitely all. I really think it's just helpful. It's been really helpful just keeping writing something, you know what I mean? Like it makes it a lot easier to switch gears and stuff. And like, I only know 3 chords anyway. So like, you're not reinventing the fucking wheel either way.
But it is cool. I think a lot of people that kind of do multiple projects probably have this happen, but I do say if I'm writing for Bad Signs, I'm writing for Bad Signs. But, you know, in that process, a lot of times you write something that you go, this might be a sick punk song or a sick whatever that. So, you know, that was kind of definitely helped, you know, like I said, we had a lot of stuff piled up that I was like, could finally go, all right, like, you know, maybe I'll revisit this because, you know, I've literally watched everything there is to watch. You know, I've watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 50 fucking times. So yeah.
You watched all of Netflix, like you got to the end. Where did so we haven't actually talked about this, even though Bad Signs has been around for years now. When did the first record come out? It was like 2015, maybe?
27. Our official first record was a Record Store Day release in 2017, but we like self-released a single, I think.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Year before or something, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that idea come from? Because it's especially for the mid 2000 teens or whatever we call them, I guess, such a unique sort of sound and such a unique project. Where did the idea for that come from? And I'll tell you that in listening back to Die Young with me for a while today, and then comparing it with Semper Liberi, you could almost see that Bad Signs, not that I thought that that's the direction you were going to go in, but the amount of sort of like reverb and vibrato and whatever on the guitar is like, oh, I could kind of see in hindsight, like why this became a thing. But where did that idea really stem from?
It was, we'd met Samantha, who is the other member of Bad Signs, through a mutual friend, and seen her play. And we just were at a point with Blacklist where we had all these like, you know, kind of very bad, you know, the Die Young with Me experience, you know, was like essentially a record getting shelved, right? And we were kind of going, all right, I still want to play music. I still think like, you know, I want to seriously pursue music, but if we're going to do something else, it was like try to do something that was different enough from Blacklist Royals that wasn't just, you know, a repeat of Blacklist. And it was kind of,
or that wasn't like grow a beard and play an acoustic guitar.
Well, exactly. Right. Yeah. I mean,
which is fine, but
no, there really was a lot of that going into it. Because it's like, fuck this. I don't want to just, you know, do the shit everybody else is doing. And it really kind of was a risk, because we didn't lean on the Blacklist. It wasn't like dudes from Blacklist Royals. We were like, we're going to make this a whole different.
Yeah.
But but just like you kind of said, if you look at the influences though, even like on our first record or whatnot, it kind of is all, we're pulling from the same stuff. It's just kind of done in a different way, or like, okay, instead of, you know, or, and with Bad Signs, it was kind of just, you know, embracing a lot of the things that, like Blacklist wasn't necessarily about, you know. Blacklist is just kind of our, like a punk band, and Bad Signs was like, all right, we can, you know, whatever, paint our fucking faces and get up there and freak people out, do our thing.
And weirdly, a lot of Bad Signs, I think when we recorded Die Young with Me, like it was just such a wake-up call. I mean, I remember Ted Hutt, who had produced it, we had sent him like songs we were really like vibing for, and it was all shit that really was a lot like Bad Signs, like Donovan and like 60s stuff, and he was just like, I don't know if you guys know what you sound like.
Yeah,
you fucking sound like Bryan Adams.
Yeah,
you don't sound like this.
Yeah, it was kind of like how does Donovan apply to fucking Blacklist Royals, dude?
Yeah.
And it was a really like, you know, you get into all this different kinds of music, and you think it comes through in your own shit, and like, and it doesn't necessarily, and that really, I mean, Bad Signs was really kind of Nat's brainchild, but it was really like a culmination of a lot of musical influences we couldn't bring to fruition in Blacklist, and then like visual influences that we couldn't, which is more like the Misfits, Tiff, the Cramps, shit like that, you know. So I think it really came from that, and like Nat said, just frustration with where we were at with Blacklist at the time.
But you know, I think that's like the common rookie mistake where you go, dude, we got our new record and every song sounds different or whatever, you know. You're like, dude, you don't need the reggae song. That's great, you like reggae, but start a fucking reggae band then. Don't put the fucking reggae. Anyways, so that kind of was what led to Bad Signs. And I think, it was a lot of during recording Die Young with Me that we were like trying to pull those influences in, and then kind of found an easier route would just to be started another band. So just then we
put like a hard,
it's just like Blacklist,
like a clean break on it. Yeah.
It's like, so we go to Blacklist and we're like, this is a punk song I wrote about, you know, being pissed or whatever, you know. It's like a very, Bad Signs is always kind of in character. Blacklist is kind of, you know, more just semi-real thoughts and feelings, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, they all are, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Kind of it's more of a
conceptual, like, you know, type thing.
Was that the idea at what point did the concept really start to take place? Did it start with music, or did it start with other, like the look and the vibe you want, or whatever? Or
it all started with this sounds insane, but I was actually watching Natural Born Killers. Okay. And there's this scene where Juliette Lewis is like singing in her cell.
Yeah.
And I was like,
God, I haven't seen that movie in 25 years.
And I was like watching that, and I went, okay, like this is cool, but it's creepy, and it's what. So we kind of started with like visual ideas, but we actually started recording and writing music before we ever. It took us a while to kind of figure out, you know, how we wanted to really, you know, our approach has always been, you know, we'll cut it and then we'll figure out how to do it live.
Yeah.
You know, so that was kind of the thing with Bad Signs. And I think we may have played like 3 shows or something when we got that official Record Store Day release. And then like, okay, well, we got to figure out how to do this live now, you know?
And it's really, our new record that isn't out yet, that we did over quarantine, like, it's really cool because it's way more like, I think Blacklist fans will like it more. It's way more punk rock. It's like way more on the Misfits
Okay.
crampsy type tip. You know, there's not a lot of slow songs.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's almost more rocking than Die Young with Me, I'd even say.
Yeah, I would
so
too.
It's kind of back in, we're kind of,
I would too, for
bad,
sure.
Bad Signs are kind of, as we progress the sound, we you know, X was like a big influence as far as like signs go, and we've really started leaning into, say, that male female vocal thing. So I'm singing more and stuff, and we're actually we're doing a live stream in a couple weeks, and we're going to play all unreleased songs.
Oh hell yeah.
So you know, it'll be a little sample or whatever for people, but
yeah, I'm looking forward to that, actually.
Yeah,
oh, man.
Yeah, that record store day release, I remember I went to a record store in New Hampshire, in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, to get it. And I wanted to buy a couple. There was somebody else that was asking for a copy of it. Somebody from, I don't know, Facebook land or whatever.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let me buy 2 copies of it because it was a record store day release. I said, I remember they got 6 of them in and they were in the same bin. And I was like, oh, awesome. Like, it's here. And I think there's maybe a Jason Isbell record that came out the same day. And so I got both of them. Which there's a weird combination, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, they both came from Nashville. But yeah, I tried to buy 2 and the guy was like, no, you can't. I was
you're like, I know these
really?
guys. I know these guys. You're overestimating the demand of this record. Like, trust, let me take it up your hands while I'm fucking here.
Right. I'm going to give you money for it. Like, like, no, it's limited to 1 per customer for record store day titles. I was like, so like, if I come back later, he's like, no, it's 1 per day. I'm like, oh my god,
Jesus, that's awesome.
I appreciate the effort though, man.
Yeah,
I tried. Yeah, but that was such a cool record, and it's not like I said before, it's way out of left field for really anything else that was coming out when that album came out. Like it doesn't sound like anything else from this generation. the concept and the like the whole Elvis thing, like doesn't look or sound like anything else. That I really liked that aspect of that record. That was really cool.
Thanks, man. And it was kind of a, you know, like you'd said, it took a minute to figure out what we were going to do, but it kind of stokes me out that it wasn't, say, what people that knew Blacklist were expecting. So I actually think that's cool because that was part of it. You know, we didn't want to just throw beards and get up there and go, and now we're gonna play it slow.
Which
wants that? Like, come on.
There's a time and a place for it. I'm a 40-year-old white guy with a beard, so like
hey, bro, I'm right there behind you, dude. Don't worry, I'll be there. I
don't mind like putting on a flannel shirt and getting the Martin acoustic out and playing punk rock songs. But it's cool that you didn't do that. And then with the surf record that came out, for people that are still listening, the surf record that came out whatever, a couple weeks ago, I guess at this point, like only on cassette tape or whatever, which whatever. That's not I'd have to find a place to play cassette tapes. But again, it's a thing that people wouldn't expect, maybe coming from the guys if they remember like Warped Tour era Blacklist Royals, you know, like this totally instrumental, weird Dick Dale inspired evil surf album. It's it's wild.
Yeah, thanks. And it's actually only on cassette because it was supposed to be a cassette store day release, and then cassette store day didn't happen.
Was that actually going to be a thing? I don't know that.
That was like going to be a thing.
It was like going to be a big thing.
But
Burger Records was too.
Anyway, it was going to be a thing, it's it was also kind of in that same vein though, to go, well, if I'm writing a song, I'm gonna like use it for one of these bands. And a lot of those songs did have lyrics and stuff though, but I kind of had to push myself to go like, it almost was more of a challenge for me to go, can I write a song that's like 3 minutes without lyrics that you'll listen to? Like, because I dig a killer instrumental, like, so, and a lot of those were, say, based on instrumentals I love. Like, I wanted to like write a ballad, so I'm like, what's the sickest kind of instrumental ballad? Which I went to like Santo and Johnny's Sleepwalk, right? But when you you actually sit down and go, dude, this is a 4-minute song with no words and it fucking rips.
Yeah.
Like that takes like like some chops. So it was really kind of about me challenging myself to find a way to not just, do
to write a song that's not just 90 seconds long, that's all instrumental, but to get people to listen to it, like to actually be an interesting song. I say this as not a songwriter at all, but that seems like that's a different sort of challenge, right?
Yeah.
Like
there's a cool, it's really cool. I mean, there's one song, I don't know if you got to listen to it yet, but there's one song called Snake that's like the audio. If you've ever been to a fucking skate park and got snaked, it's like the audio equivalent. It's kind of surreal. It's like you feel
the
like
feeling of being snaked.
LSD flashback.
Yeah.
And it's shit like that. It's just really cool.
Yeah, that's where my head goes. I like had him over there playing it for him, going, this is supposed to sound like it feels when you get snaked.
And it does.
But we did some, there was an instrumental on that first Bad Signs record, Hypno Twist.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same style as the surf shit. And we would always enjoy doing that live, like more than anything. Like I said, I mean, a lot of the slow songs, we'd be up there going like, oh my God. But we got to play that and just let loose, rip, like rock out, have fun.
Yeah.
So that kind of was what, that was where I was like, man, this is just like fun, just to get up and play surf guitar and just rock the fuck out,
Did you have to like teach yourself to play surf guitar, or is that a thing that you've messed with?
I taught myself. I would like, I'm totally self-taught and like not necessarily a good guitar player technically,
It's punk rock. It's weird if you're
a guitar player. So
unless you're Brian Baker.
Yeah. I did. I actually just like sat down and would learn old surf songs, and then that's kind of how you pick up. I did it just the same way, I learned to play punk rock. You'd watch the video of the dude doing it.
Yeah.
You're like going, okay, I think it's like this, and then you sit down and you suck for a couple weeks, and then you kind of go, oh, that sounds okay.
Well, now you have the benefit of YouTube and things like that to be able to use versus 25 years ago picking up a guitar.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, dude, the YouTube is will speed up that process for sure.
Oh yeah. If there's one thing that I've probably gotten better at during quarantine, but I've played a lot, but it's just from watching YouTube videos and playing guitar, sitting at my dining room table, and there's nothing else to do, and I got all these guitars here, so I might as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And those tutorials really are great. And it's like, it kind of blows your mind, all these total rippers that are just in their basement, like all across the world. Like, what the fuck? These guys are like prodigies, And
they're not necessarily musicians either. Like YouTube has sort of risen the bar in some level, but like it's guys that might work in accounting, or
that's what I mean. Yeah. It's like, I just got off work at the tire shop, and here's how you do. You're
right.
Like,
fuck. YouTube's awesome because it just reminds you like there's a freak out there that can do everything. Like you can look up a tutorial for anything on that shit. Like how do I get a piece of dried gum off my stovetop, and there'll be a fucking tutorial.
Yeah.
Oh, but then there's more than one, because there's there's so many shitty comments in the comment section. That's not how you do it, and then somebody else makes their own.
Yeah, and it's but then the bad side is they're all fucking freaks, so it's a 20-minute tutorial for a 2-second task,
Yep.
But for music, it's invaluable.
So if 2021 goes accordingly and everybody gets vaccinated, and those of us in places where we still wear masks actually still wear masks, what will be the first thing sort of on the radar live music wise if things break accordingly? Would that be Fest theoretically and the Blacklist 11th anniversary thing?
Yeah,
maybe
for Blacklist, hopefully Fest and some other festivals.
Were there other tour dates last year too? I just don't remember at this point.
No,
but were there other things?
We've been talking about doing some other stuff in like Puza Fest and some things like that. And then it just kind of, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Right now, though, I think everybody's hoping for the fall. Yeah. I'm assuming Bad Signs are going to might play a couple more shows than just Fest, and we're playing Fest as well. And then, yeah, Blacklist is going to be playing the Fest. And
oh, yeah, Bad Signs is.
We're kind of just everybody's just like got their fingers crossed. I hope that goes down.
Well, obviously, it's going to be a cool thing to get back out on the stage, but is it also going to be a weird thing to get back out on the stage after the year we've just had, and and knowing that there's still going to be some level of the bug out there? And
it's been weird. Like, I mean, like my vaccine just kicked in, you know, and like, because I only have one line, like I haven't fucking been out at all.
Yeah.
So it's been weird being back out. I actually think maybe being on a stage will be less weird because we're like separated a little bit, you know, but yeah, it's gonna be fucking weird, but everything it's also weird like having to Clorox my bag of tortilla chips. You know what I mean? Like I'm down to roll with the punches at this point.
Yeah.
Well, and you guys live in a place where people were a little bit fast and loose with the wear a mask all the time.
Oh, they still are, man. It's a trip. Like the trippiest thing about finally getting vaccine and being able to leave is to go, oh, nobody gives a fuck about
right.
It. Like and anybody that does is at home.
Right.
And it's weird.
It's the Wild West as far as fucking COVID goes down here, man. And it has been the whole time. Like it's a trip.
It's really weird to watch how that's been at other places in the country.
I bet living in the Northeast, it's been weird seeing how the South really has dealt with it.
Yeah, and we have pockets of that. We have small pockets of these anti-mask people, and there's been anti-mask protests outside governors' houses and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's all the same people that voted for Trump, essentially. And so thankfully in Massachusetts, there aren't all that many of them.
Yeah.
But they do exist, and it's weird. But then to watch videos of what was Kid Rock's bar or something like that, maybe in like August, that had there was way over capacity for non-COVID times, never mind.
I know.
But it's so creepy, even to watch movies now where people are getting together in a place, or to watch old concert videos. It's like, oh, we did that. Like, but that he's breathing right on that other guy. Like,
well, is that weirder to you than like the new, there's like this, there's starting to be like pandemic horror movies.
Oh yeah, I skipped that.
And it's like I kind of get the sick like gallows humor of going, fuck it, I'm gonna watch this. But you know, but the news is so much like a horror movie anyway. Like,
right.
Yeah, I might desensitize you a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, places like where you guys are, Texas, Florida, obviously, it is very bizarre to know that like in our little pocket, we've been trying to do everything right. We've been trying to mask. We haven't quite Cloroxed the tortilla chips, although I know people that do for sure, that do still. But like we do everything according to plan. Like we don't go out much. We wear masks and we walk around the fucking neighborhood around nobody, just in case. And then to know that there's people, like, it's weird, but it's also sort of infuriating. Like, we don't have to be still doing this if we had just fucking paid attention 8 months ago.
Totally, man. It is. And like, you forget I mean, like one of our best friends, like we just attended a Zoom funeral, and like, people shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, that's a thing I've not had to do yet.
And you really, and it really like, you have this sobering moments because the numbers are so staggering and it's been going on for so long. And then you have these reminders like hit home of like, God damn, guys, like if like at what level is their culpability? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
right.
And the answer, of course, is zero. Nobody gives a fuck. But like,
right.
Yeah, that is the answer. Nobody gives a fuck.
But it definitely it's going to be a good time for punk rock, because like if you're not fucking pissed off after this, like you're not paying attention.
I feel you though. There's gonna be a period where you got to get over it feeling wrong.
Yeah, right.
You know, you're like, this feels fucked up. Like, you know, especially when we're of that mindset of, you know, I've been more cautious like than most people, right? And you're very kind of like, I'm trying to do my shit.
Right.
So it's gonna be like a getting over that process, I think.
Especially in this scene. If there's still a scene left, frankly, but because all of the small clubs, if there still are any, have all been staffed historically by people that are also playing in bands. So it becomes this sort of ancestral web in a good way. Yeah. But then, so the club's closed down and nobody's been working for a year. And so our band's going to want to give a shit. And we're the one scene where like it thrives. You can't sit down at tables in little pods 8 feet apart from each other and watch a punk rock show. It doesn't work.
And I mean, punk rock will survive, but I definitely hate it for like, you know, like you said, a lot of bands that you're living hand to mouth to be able to tour, you know, a couple months out of the year, and like if everybody loses their fucking job, nobody's playing music, and like there's going to be a lot of bands that have members that are going, I can't do this anymore, man. Like,
because you finally got a quote unquote real job.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that sucks. And I don't think, I mean, it's obvious that like our society doesn't give as much credence to like the importance of art and and subcultures and communities, but like they're really gonna have a tough time bouncing back from this shit, man. And I really, like, we're luckier than a lot of people.
Sure.
We have like a pad we can play music at, and like just like enough shit going on that we can keep creating pretty safely, because like it just sucks, man. It's heartbreaking. So I'm hoping some of these venues survive.
I hope that there are kids that have been quarantined or whatever that have taken the time to learn how to play guitar and shit like that. And
I hope so too,
because there hasn't been whatever guitar music in years, really. Which I think I know Adam Levine from Maroon 5 got a lot of shit the other day about saying that there's no bands anymore. I think what he means is like there's not necessarily, like, kids don't play guitar anymore. I know, I have a teenager.
Totally.
Kids don't play guitar anymore. So I hope that being locked in the house, maybe with dad's instruments or whatever, has gotten kids to play guitar or to learn how to play guitar, so that maybe there will be a next generation of a punk rock scene.
I really hope so too. You know, like fuck, I hope so.
Because the stuff that technology wise, the stuff that kids have access to now is really awesome, and we never had it. Like, my daughter is in 7th grade, and they're working on, like, they're doing remixes for music class. So the teacher gives you a seed, like a vocal seed. Now, granted, they're just doing All Star by Smash Mouth or whatever, but then they have this program, this sort of garage band-ish program, where they remix the song. Basically, they come up with drum beats, they come up with bass beats, they put breakdowns in, they learn about how to structure a song. I was like, holy shit, that's awesome.
That's insane.
Such a trip.
And so if there are kids that are able to do that, that don't just become SoundCloud rappers or whatever, but that become like musicians, punk rockers or whatever, that'll be cool. I hope it's happening.
I have this, I mean, it's just the jaded person in me that feels like the access to not necessarily the technology as far as making music, but it's like their subcultures seem to kind of be a thing of the past. And to me, like, I feel like having a subculture, you get a lot. I mean, because you kind of have to go all in with it if you want to be part of it, you know.
Right.
And that's not the case anymore.
Right.
So hence like the shitty SoundCloud rappers.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm hopeful. It's like if 1 out of 1,000 kids can be disillusioned enough to pick up a guitar and
and
want to do it for real, like that would be great.
There's like nothing that makes you feel old like a fucking SoundCloud rapper. I looked at this article the other day about top 10 new up and coming SoundCloud rappers, and I was just like confused, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? Are these kids doing many drugs?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it just sounds so fucking weird.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
It's weird. Yeah.
I'm like,
and frankly, the SoundCloud rappers are actually like from a couple of years ago at this point. Like that's almost old at this point.
Yeah.
Because everything's on TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, I'd like to take pills, not listen to them. You know?
Right.
And that's not, I'm not into it.
Yeah.
But, you know, old fucking dudes sitting around bitching.
Right.
Tale as old as time.
Every generation.
Like, the fuck.
We can wrap things up. Thanks for coming on tonight, guys. This was really fun. It's good to actually talk to both of you in the same room. We're not in the same room, but you are, and that's it's been a long time.
I really did. I can't wait so we can actually hang out again.
I know. Hopefully, people will buy. How is it coming? Is the new thing coming? Is Doomsday Girl coming out physically? I know it's through Paper and Plastic, but
it's coming out digitally next in a couple weeks, and then it's coming out physically. I think it's going to be like a Black Friday release.
Oh, okay.
And will also be the fest if that happens. So if you come out to our show, you can pick it up.
Yeah. Fingers crossed for you guys.
Yeah, I'll save you a copy, man.
Fingers crossed.